Hello, it's Nick Dutch back on the camera yet again. Hi there, how the heck's it going? I've had an inquirer who's popped on, private message here on YouTube and has said, tell me about the Ascended Masters. Lots of New Agers and occultists talk about the Ascended Masters and claim to have contacted them. What's your thoughts on the subject? Well, my thoughts on the subject of the Ascended Masters and their objective reality in the spiritual world is just the same as my opinion on spirits, demons, angels, and all the rest of that. Of course, it is possible under some strange circumstances to have an experience which is within keeping with all the social mythology associated with ghosts, angels, demons, spirits, and all the rest of that kind of stuff. That's what we can have. Okay, sometimes they seem to have some kind of rank or character or some kind of essence or nature about them, which we would say is in keeping with something that we've heard of, we've read about, or that we understand from some forms of literature or some forms of cultural or media interpretation of life. And when I say cultural or media interpretation of life, I mean anything even vaguely, New Age, spiritual, occult, supernatural, all the rest of that has its own hypothetical understanding of what could possibly be real. Okay, sometimes your personal experiences can be very, very powerful, and that they can convince you that some things are totally real. Okay, which is difficult because we don't really properly know 110%. The experiences can be so powerful that we can end up being convinced that some particular things are real and solid and concrete. Okay, and that's where things get fun, interesting, and difficult, because the quality of speculation that people come out with can in fact be really rather extreme. And as a result of that, they then take to the understanding that what their speculation has been telling them is in fact the hard and fast facts of nature. Okay, I will just reiterate the same thing which I normally say, and that is that strange things just seem to happen. When you're doing something like a mediumship type experiment and you appear to contact a spirit, it appears to appear to you through whatever means, okay, whether it's through vision, whether it's through scrying, whether it's through appearing when you're doing an astral projection or a dream quest type, path working type weird shit, then it can be an incredibly powerful experience. But it's only once in a while that you can start to isolate any of the other factors, to take those extra factors out of the equation, to be able to say, well, that couldn't have been caused by anything I know about, or anything that is normal. And then you start to understand that maybe there is a hypothetical spiritual reality out there which we can experience. But there's lots of people who say that this, that, and the other can't have been caused by something normal, but they haven't really analysed to any real depth what that thing, what that happening really was. So they'll say, well, this couldn't have happened as a result of anything by normal physical means. And then, hey presto, with a bit of further analysis, you can turn around and say, well, actually, yes, it could. You haven't quite got it right there, have you? Just try and think a little more and a little harder about the whole thing. And then maybe, you'll be able to come closer to the truth. So, people make mistakes in their analysis. I suppose if I do have an agenda, it will be to try and encourage people to have these strange experiences, okay? I mean, even the ones which are just psychological. Because even the psychological ones are fun, they're interesting, they're peculiar. But you just get these little other things happening which just makes you think, what's really going on here? I mean, a criticism of my argument could be that maybe I personally haven't actually analysed everything in all that depth. But on the other hand, with some of the experiences I've talked about, like the dream telepathy experience, like the angel of death experience, like some of the auric experiences I've had, because I did not prime the individuals I was experimenting upon in any possible way. They hadn't seen like my pentacle ring, they didn't know I was into anything occult, they just told me what they'd experienced unprompted by me, despite the fact that I had been experimenting to try and get some variety of weird experience that they would then experience and then relate back to me. Alright, that's when things get really freaky. That's when, you know, you're at that point of thinking, you know, this is like the eureka moments that I have touched upon something which is not, I mean, purely, you know, literally completely unprimed by me. They didn't know I was into any weird shit. They didn't know that I read tarot. They didn't know that I went to witchcraft groups. They didn't know anything about this sort of like more, you know, for want of a better word, esoteric part of my life. And then they tell me what they'd experienced. Like the lady whose hand I held, and she said she felt spiritual healing energy or something entering into her, up her arm, when I was visualizing the spiritual healing energy going into her. Okay, that was weird, because I hadn't told her I was doing it at all, under any circumstances. Alright, she didn't know I was doing weird shit, but yet she told me that. Alright, like when I was in college and I did the experiments of trying to actually project to someone I knew, and I created the astral projection experience. I would meet him in the dance hall. I'd grab him by the neck and shout at him, you know, you must work harder. And then like 9 months later, I'm on a pub crawl with him, and he tells me about this really weird dream he had when he met me in the dance hall. I grabbed him by the neck and I shouted at him, he's got to work harder. Unprompted by me. Didn't know I'd done the experiment on him. Completely. That's a proper experience, okay? That is like the X-File moment. That is like the kind of like, yes, you know, something has happened there. I made it happen. It was weird. Alright? But there's other times when you think, well, it could be down to anything. It could be down to things I was worried about, food I'd ate, maybe an allergy reaction I'd had to something I'd eaten, or some chemicals in the air, or pollen, or the fact I was coming down with the flu, or, you know, so many other little things that could have affected the experience. But sometimes weird stuff happens. Now, as far as the Ascended Masters are concerned, what kind of person, think about it, what kind of person would turn around to you and say, I was in touch with Jesus Christ, Buddha, and all the rest of that last night? Is there a kind of person? Is there a type of mentality of person who would do that? Is there? Yeah, people who want to try and portray to people within the, as it were, spiritual communities that they are somehow superior to you. Okay? They're inadequate. I mean, you can try and create an experience of contacting a individual or character or spirit or whatever, and it could be the spirit of Jesus Christ or Buddha or whatever. Okay, it could be, right? So what? It's no different from me trying to contact Santa Claus on Christmas Day. You know, do they exist? We don't know. All we can say is there's a strange experience. And if they turn around to you and say, well, Jesus Christ says that I've got to kill you, then you run like fuck, okay? Or if they say that Jesus Christ told me to take an overdose of paracetamol, you say, no, he fucking didn't. Be careful. There's lots of people out there who want to try and come up with the idea that they are the Messiah. Alright, they are Jesus, that they are the new Messiah, they are the Jesus Christ, they are the person who you should be revering and worshipping. When basically they're just some sad, pathetic little wanker who pushes trolleys in Tesco's, who works behind the counter at Walmart, who's been unemployed for years and like lives in a cardboard box under a bridge, and they're nothing. They're not intellectually astute enough to be able to explain an intellectually complex subject to people. They're people who've got something wrong with them. Be careful. Also, how long in our history, in the history of people, human history, has the phrase Ascended Masters been in existence? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Has it been? I mean, there may have been some small cult somewhere which have used a very similar phrase, but to the most part it's only a very recent cultural phenomenon. It's only a very recent cultural meme, really, isn't it? So it's there to provide some kind of dogmatic, alleged authority to aspects of the New Age world. We could say hypothetically. So what's the point in worrying about that? And now, if you want to treat these things as if they are an object of religion, as like the Catholics see their saints, then go for it. You know, if that's your religion, then fine. But don't you dare turn around to me and say it's fact. Alright, unless you can give me an experience of the quality of those which I have given you today. And even then, there may still be more questions to be asked. Because there's still too many things that we just don't know. And so we've got to use our brains. Seriously, we've just got to use our brains. And know when we know something, and know when we don't quite know enough about something to make a truth claim. There's another danger to people talking about the Ascended Masters. And that danger is that they're trying to make you superstitious and fearful. As if to say, well, the Ascended Masters said this, so essentially you're wrong and you've got to do as I say. You know, it can be one of those tools that people use to control other people, including you. So just be wary of people who say that they've shot off to Godhead, that they are one with the Creator and Master of the universe, that they have spoken to Buddha, or the Archangel Michael, or whichever higher power that they think the youth believe in, and they say that this particular being is trying to order you about. Humans are weird. Okay, humans are peculiar. And they often want to do things which are detrimental to other humans. And that's why it's important to be skeptical of other people's claims. You can take them on board and see them as an interesting perspective. But you don't have to take them seriously, and you certainly don't have to obey. Just another trans-deist sermon from Nick Dutch today. Good fortune, God bless. Keep cool. And don't go crazy.